Hey there. Today's Thursday, everybody.
Thursday.
Yeah, I'm Haley Gray. I'm the founder here on the Women's Entrepreneur Network. And like we do so many other weeks, I have my friend Victoria Bentley here with me tonight. Welcome.
Good to see y'all.
It's good to be here. So tonight's topic is, why do we make things so damn hard on ourselves? And I'm going to kind of explain where I'm coming from on this one.
Yeah.
So I have noticed that every time I am, looking at massive growth in my business, or I have a major event, something of equal and or opposite bullshit explodes in my life. So a couple of weeks ago, I was doing the Win Summit. Some of y'all may remember the Win Summit. It was amazing. It was awesome. We had a blast.
It always is.
It was. And in the background, I'm getting all of these texts from my oldest daughter and from the manager at the group home she lives at, flipping their ever living minds. Text after email, after text, after text, after text. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, can I just have a Valium salt lick in my kitchen or something right about now? But it's a trend that I've noticed.
What's the trend?
Every time I'm about to do something big, other things blow up. So this week I've got all kinds of fun things going on in my life and in my business. On Monday, Facebook goes down. On Tuesday, somebody tries to hack into my bank account. So my mobile access got locked. Wednesday, I finally started getting all of my stuff reset with the bank, and the internet goes down at my house. The whole Wi-Fi, poof, gone. And we're like, okay, no problem. We'll call Google Fiber. And Google's like, yeah, we can be there at 5 p.m. on Thursday. And my husband and I are looking at each other going, okay.
How about 5 minutes from now instead?
Yeah, he's a programmer. My business heavily relies on, internet. And so we find out that the fiber had been cut like 700 meters down the road in somebody else's yard. And so we thought we were going to just tether our phones and use that for our desktop machines. Oh no, there is something wrong with the T-Mobile configuration for our phones, so we couldn't use them as mobile hotspots.
Right. And AT&T had a problem and Verizon had a problem, and my internet went down, and I live about 500 miles from you, and it sure isn't because your neighbor 700 feet down cut into the wire.
Yeah. So anyway,
let's just call this for what it is.
It's just been one of those weeks where, things are going great. I've got some really cool things going on in the background. And then just as soon as I've got really cool things going on in the background, I have the equal and opposite things exploding all up one side and down the other again. And I just have to chuckle. And, a lot of my energy savvy friends are like, yeah, there's definitely some energetic stuff there where we just stir things up, and some of us can't do anything the easy way.
Well, yes and no, but I also think that we have an opportunity. I can't say if I'm causing that or if it's just life on life's terms. It's a day that ends in Y, but it is an opportunity for growth for me that I can either, punch my fist through the wall or say, all right, I need to develop a little bit of more patience or tolerance, or I would say we certainly have made our lives more complicated. This is not what my mother's life looked like at my age. And certainly in her era, roles were much more defined, whereas now we're expected to do everything. But I think, how do we handle these things with grace? When these things are presented to us,
Mm-hmm.
We can really lose our cool, or we can operate with grace. And I think it's a great opportunity to learn that behavior. And I'm saying this because I'm not particularly good at it. My camp motto, run in danger, when in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout.
Mm-hmm.
And that certainly doesn't get you any closer to your goal.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
why do we do this? I don't I don't know. Are we really doing this to ourselves, or is it just life on life's terms?
Well, and then there's sometimes too, I think, where the lack of the better description, the lizard brain takes over. Something's happening. Lizard brain takes control. Like, raise your hand if you've ever had that event where you go into lizard brain mode and you make it worse because you're in lizard brain mode and you're in reaction mode and you react
Very,
completely,
very well put. Right.
inappropriately.
React rather than respond.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
And,
think that
and
that's a
that always gets you in trouble.
that almost always gets you into a ton of trouble. And reacting rather than responding is, really, it's a really awful kind of thing in business. I've run across, because I work with people's businesses, I do business consulting, I do digital marketing, I am dealing with your livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really important thing that we get things right, and that we try. But I've also had some of the business owners that we come across from time to time that just, if there's any mistakes or if we don't do everything 1,000% perfect every single time, or, we're not responding to a call at 2:00 in the morning on Saturday night, somehow, we're the bad guy. And you have to be really careful about your response to that type of situation rather than reactive to, somebody losing their cool with you.
Well, and I also have to be reminded myself. Here is an example of this. I worked in a law firm with some pretty intense guys. I was the only woman in the firm. And every
Mm-hmm.
day the sky was falling. And every day, oh my God, there was a man, and that was all he said is, oh my God, oh my God. And it was just such a drama queen. I just couldn't
Mm-hmm.
stand him. And I thought about it, and I said to him at one point, you need to understand, buddy, I worked in an ICU. That's pretty serious stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you writing a contract is not, oh my God. It's you
No.
sit down at your office desk and you grind the thing out and you run it by someone or you run it by your client, whatever. And maybe he'll like it, maybe he won't. But it isn't, oh my God. And this week, there was an obituary in our paper of a colleague of mine. He was an extremely financially, professionally successful guy. He made tens of millions of dollars. He was the practice manager of a law firm in 17 cities that he had taken when he came on 50 years ago. He had taken it from 130 lawyers to offices in 17 cities. And it really was his leadership that drove this bus
Mm-hmm.
into this behemoth. He had his first heart attack at 38,
Mm-hmm.
quadruple bypass, couple of wives, very intense, very sharp tongued, just um, very, very capable at what he did. But he really made a muck of a lot of things by this intense driving personality. And okay, so he died with a lot of money. And I remember, because I worked with someone who had come from that firm, the phone call on Thanksgiving Day, hey Charlie, it's 12:30, it's Thanksgiving, you've had your fucking turkey, now get your ass in here. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how he functioned. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, you're cracking the whip and you're driving the train this way, and you and everybody else had a heart attack. My labor professor came from that firm and died at 49 at the breakfast table because he had been worked to death. And I think, why do we make things so hard for ourselves? Well, I look back at some of these guys. They wanted power. They
Mm-hmm.
wanted a lot of money. They wanted a lot of recognition. And they
Mm-hmm.
traded off healthy marriages or stable marriages. They traded off healthy children. They traded off the ability to come home and have dinner with their family for these things, for
Mm-hmm.
what I consider to be great wealth. I don't mean the Aga Khan, but I mean, you got 10 million bucks as a lawyer, you've done something right. And these guys were earning seven figures every year. They were the gurus, and they were good. At what price?
At
And
what cost? Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's really the question. Why do we make things hard for ourselves? Because often we're greedy, or often we're egotistical, or often we want to outdo other people. And I think when we check your motives, check your motives. What am I really doing here? I think that we can find the answer and maybe not make things so difficult for ourselves. And then again, you might say, yeah, it's worth it to me. It's worth it to me to do this. And okay, I'm going to live 10 years shorter, but I'm going to have a great ride. But I think a lot of, it's kind of like TV shows. A lot of this, and I remember many of these firms, and I remember many of these guys, they were having affairs. Some of them had terrible problems with cocaine, because what other way are you going to keep going for an 18-hour workday? I mean, these men were working
Mm-hmm.
100 hours a week.
Mm-mm.
How do you have a relationship with your children or your wife if you're
You
working
don't.
100 hours a week? You don't. And it was a trade off they were willing to make. And I think that is an example of why do we make things hard for ourselves. I had lunch. This is my other, when we were talking about this, I had lunch recently with a friend of mine who's an extremely successful man, and he buys a lot of houses. This is the way he invests, and he really enjoys it. And he's a famous guy, and the houses have been on Architectural Digest and whatever else. He's that kind of houses. But I also realized he sucks everybody in. He talks and talks and talks about it, and then never pulls the trigger now on this. And so there are people like that. And that's another way we make things hard on ourselves. Like, you have a daughter who has mental illness. People like that can suck the life out of you if you allow it. And I think the way we stop this is if we set limits and boundaries about how I'm going to deal with someone like that. And my answer was, when we started on the topic of this house that is so perfect that I've got to have it, but there's this, but there's that, but there's this, but there's that. And it's like, well, gee, it sounds like it's not the right house. You'll find
Mm-hmm.
another one. Oh, but it's so wonderful. And I watched everybody get sucked in, and he had no intention of buying it. He just created drama all around him. He gets everybody into a frenzy. I thought, this is energy vampire stuff. And my friends were laughing because he headed off to the men's room, and I said, okay, what's the over under on this guy buying a house? I'm going to start the pool. And everybody laughed. And I thought, I don't have to go there. I can talk about the weather, and I can enjoy this friend on other levels. And I think that we have to make those choices for ourselves. And if it gets to be too much, you take the last train for the coast. But I think people are going to have their own stuff. They're going to have their own nuttiness. They're going to have their own long suits and short suits. How do we want to conduct ourselves? And I have to say no when that starts. And I think that's another way that we make things easier, is saying no. And that's hard for women to do. I have found, women, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll make the cake for the bake sale. When I don't have time to make the cake for the bake sale, but I don't want to say no because I don't want to hurt your feelings. Men will say no because they're much
Mm-hmm.
more self-centered than other-centered. That's just, and I don't mean that unkindly. I just think they're wired more that way. It's like, what's in it for me? How am I going to get ahead? Whereas, moms and women are often, I want to make everybody happy because relationships are considerably more important to me than other things. We define us by our relationship, men themselves by. Think about it.
Hmm.
I don't think we've evolved uh, beyond that. And personally, I would rather define myself by those relationships. I find it
Hmm.
more important, and I can have a balance in my life if I have relationships and a job.
Absolutely. And I do much the same myself, you know. And it's a question of what do you value? And what price do you put on it? And what value do you attach to things? Um, you know, and some people are very motivated by money, some are not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
And I guess it depends
Status.
on where you're coming from.
Hmm.
A lot of hungry children are motivated by money,
Hmm.
and that's not my gig. I
Hmm.
life's too short for that
Hmm.
because that can really
Definitely.
become a drug.
Hmm. Like
I
so many
am.
other things.
I did something yesterday that was just simple and lovely. I drove down a country lane that has truly magnificent houses on it. I mean,
Hmm.
magazine houses.
Hmm.
And I looked at all the pumpkin decorations that were outside, and I had never seen anything like the way they had done it. And I thought, those little touches in life that provides balance. That brings me back to earth. What are
Hmm.
the little things that you can do? I spent several days last week canning tomato sauce and making jelly, making jam, and um, balance. Balance is the answer to a lot of the crazy making,
Hmm.
and
Oh,
realizing you're
absolutely.
powerless
Balance
over
is
others.
huge. It's, you know, one of my tenets is you can have everything you want. You may not get it all at once, though.
Yeah. So, if you were to pick three things to alleviate this problem, what would you? How would you describe it?
I think it's, you know, getting really clear on your priorities and what's important.
Good one. Good one.
You know, what are your values? What are your priorities? What do you place value on,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, it can be interesting. Um, so,
I want to
you
stop
know,
you for a second. I think when, as you had kind of, we started out saying you had all the great intentions, and then the cosmic monkey wrench
oh, the
gets
cosmic
thrown in the
monkey
mix.
wrench has gone bonkers this week.
Right. To me, no
Mercury's in retrograde.
coincidence, a great example of God trying to get your attention. Like, is this really what you want to be doing? Is this really where you ought to be?
Hmm.
And what are you willing to give up to be here?
Hmm.
And as many of us, I don't want to give up anything.
Hmm.
Send me the, I want it all, right? And
Right.
that's not reality. I can't do it
Hmm.
all. And especially at my age, I don't have the ability to do things that I did when I was 21. I just don't. And that's okay because there are a lot of other things that I can do that are just fine. And that grace of that acceptance, that
Hmm.
being okay with where I am, that's another way to drive down the craziness.
Hmm.
Is in gratitude. I wanted to throw in gratitude. That's another way to
No,
avoid this. And how many of
absolutely.
us remember that? How many?
And tonight I am grateful for internet.
There you go. Like, who would ever think? I took my stepmother out with me on some errands yesterday. She needed to get out of the house. She was having a rough day. We didn't get into whatever the rough day was. And she said, I'm just feeling bad. She said, I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm feeling bad. And I said, I'll pick you up in 5 minutes. Come with me on my errands and we can talk about this in the car. And, you're uninterrupted when you're in a car.
Mm-hmm.
We had the most incredible experience.
Mm-hmm.
We were stopped at a school bus. It was like 3:30 in the afternoon. The kids were coming home. And she was telling me how she was upset with her son because he didn't handle something in a way that she thought should be handled. And just as we said that, she said that, we saw two women carrying a very special wheelchair off the special school bus with a child who I would assume by the looks of the child had very, very, very severe cerebral palsy. He was leaning way over in his chair.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't hold his head up. And he had a headrest that he had fallen out of to keep his head in place. And I thought, here is a 10-year-old who is going to have to be fed and diapered for the rest of his life. He probably can't talk. He's never going to go to college. He's never going to get married. He's never going to do those things we take for granted. And I said to her, I know you're married, you're angry at your son. And he has a job. He loves his daughter. And he's doing the best he can. And I thought about it and I thought, you know what? There's so much in front of us to be grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And when this shit hits the fan, like you're talking about this week, I think that's our opportunity to look at what is it exactly we have to be grateful for? And what is it exactly we have control over?
Mm-hmm.
Don't have control over other people. I mean,
Mm-mm.
we can always walk out the door, but you know what I'm saying. Let's be reasonable. That's not the kind of situation we're talking about. Of letting go and letting people be where they are.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
That's hard, man.
Let go and let
that
God.
comes with age. Yes, let go and let God. That comes with age. And who do I think I am who knows best for anyone but myself? I might think I do, but I'm not walking in their shoes.
Mm-mm.
So maybe I just need to, what did we talk about last time? Sit up, shut up, show up, and go about my business, not tell anybody what to do because I don't know what's best for them, only for myself.
Yep. I love it. What a great message.
And it's boy, and what a hard one to learn because I think I know best. And face it,
Of course I know best.
I
What
do know best
about?
in a lot of situations. That two things can be true at once. It's not my business. And, when you tell me, yeah, I didn't take my insulin for a month because it costs too much and I'm in between jobs, I can say, well, that's really stupid and you're shortening your life. But how's that helping? I'm coming off as a nurse saying, perhaps we need to look for other alternatives when you're in this jam. Like, hey, can I borrow you some money for my insulin? Or what are your options? Have you talked to your doctor? Or let's talk about this or that. I just, man, it's hard not to mind somebody else's business, isn't it? And that's where we get pissed off. That's when our life gets complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're
We can
married,
always tell them what they should be doing and how they should be doing it.
yeah, no, don't do it this way, this way. My husband was taking apart a dog crate tonight because our dog no longer needs a crate. And we couldn't remember how, those wire crates and they fold and they flip over and the tray goes in and we just couldn't get it done. And I thought, I'm so frustrated.
And there's like a pin that comes out. And...
Yeah. And it's like, and I'm saying to myself, you're a guy. Why don't you know this? And I'm thinking, well, what does that have to do with it? Who cares? Just put it in the garage without it being folded up. We're fine. We got room. Shut up. Move on. Let's go have some dinner. And we did. We went without dinner because we went to the James Bond movie, which was 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh, fun.
And it was great. It was just wonderful to see. I mean, we'd waited a year and a half to see this movie because it was delayed for COVID. And I think those simple things makes life nicer. It makes it more, it just, yeah. And then you don't go down that rabbit hole of, well, I told him to do this and he wouldn't do it, or why doesn't he get it, or why doesn't she stop this self-destructive behavior, or whatever you say to your kids, because she hasn't learned it yet and she's going to have to learn it, and she's going to learn it by falling her on her face. And then if you have a good relationship, maybe, just maybe, she'll say, hey, can you help me? And then you have the opportunity.
Absolutely. And then sometimes you have to, as a parent, bite your tongue.
You know what?
Until you're asked for your opinion.
That's a no coincidence today, because I heard two different people in two different conversations say, I have to bite my tongue till it bleeds, because otherwise I insinuate myself in my son's life or in my husband's life, and I just need to shut up and let them learn it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard, especially when you know an answer that you think will work.
And you may be right, and you may not be right.
And it might not be right. And you're denying them the opportunity to learn and figure it out for themselves and get the satisfaction and the growth and the positive vibes in their own heart if you're fixing it for them.
So true. I love it.
Yeah. So I sure talked a lot. Sorry.
Not sorry.
Anyway.
I got a good topic then. I got Vicki going.
Yeah, you got me on a roll tonight.
That's awesome. Thank you for joining me tonight. This has been amazing.
It's always amazing talking to you. You are just, for all of you who don't know Haley, Haley is the person that you want in the cockpit when the wing falls off, because she is a cool customer. And it really helps. Don't we all appreciate it, being around people who are calm? Doesn't that, staying calm is just the way to handle this stuff.
Totally. I feel you. Thank you.
I learned it from you.
I'm getting there. It's a process for sure.
Thanks for being you.
Thank you for being you. Thanks for being here. And we'll be back Wednesday of next week.
Yeah, we'll see you.
If I have internet.
Wednesday.
Take
Y'all
care, guys.
be good.
Bye.
Bye.